go ahead and try this question. Side RS in isosceles triangle RST is longer than the other two sides. If the degree measure of angle T is a multiple of 10, what is the greatest possible measure of angle R? So let's go ahead and draw out first our picture and try to see what we've got going on. So we know we've got a triangle RST, and we know side RS is longer than the other two sides. If it's isosceles, we know that two of the sides are equal. So clearly side RS has got to be the side that's not the equal side, right? The other two sides are going to be the equal sides. And we know RS is longer than those. So let's draw it like this, something like this. So this would be RS, and this would be T. And we know these are equal, and we know RS is bigger than RT and TS. If the degree measure of T is a multiple of 10, so we can kind of write that as just for now 10x, where x is some integer. What is the greatest possible measure of R? So we want to know how big can R be. So if you got this wrong, let me show you perhaps a way that you got this wrong, and or at least maybe you get it wrong, but maybe you got confused because you tried something and it didn't work. So let's say you drew your triangle, and you said, well, T's got to be a multiple of 10. I'm trying to get R as big as possible. So if I want to make R as big as possible, I got to make T as small as possible. So what's as small as T can be? You might have said, well, T can be 10. It can't be 0, obviously, but T can be 10. And if T is 10, what would be the measures of the other two angles? Well, if there's 180 degrees in a triangle, then we would be left with 170 degrees to divide between these two. And if you divide that by 2, you'll see each of these is 85. And you say, well, looks like R, the biggest it can be, is 85. But then you went to the choices and there is no 85. So perhaps this is what you did, or something related to this. Now, what's the problem with this? The problem is we have to remember that RS is longer than the other two sides. Now, what does that mean? Take a minute to think. And if you want, pause the video and think, why does this matter? If RS is longer than the other two sides, how does that make this wrong? So go ahead, pause the video, see if you can figure that out. So why does it matter that RS is longer than the other two sides? If RS is longer than the other two sides, then the angle across from RS, in other words, angle T, has got to be bigger than all the other angles in the triangle. So you can't set this up here. We can't set this as 10, 85, and 85, because 10, obviously, is a very small angle compared to 85 and 85. So what can we do instead? What I would suggest is the following. We still want to make R as big as possible. So that means we do want to make T as small as possible, but T, even though it's as small as possible, still has to be bigger than both R and S. So you might consider just throwing around numbers, like plug in T is 100, see what you get for R and S, plug in T is 90, see what you get as R and S. You do that, you'll eventually get an answer that works. But I think there's a more direct way to do it, which is to realize when all of these angles are equal, when they're all 60, we're kind of at that turning point, right? T is still not bigger than R and S. So what we're going to need to do is make T just a little bit bigger. Let's make T 70. That's going to make T bigger than R and S, because when we up 60 to 70 for T, we're going to have to decrease the angle amounts of R and S, which means now we're going to have 110 degrees to split between these two, which means each of these becomes 55. Which means the answer is D. And if you think about it, this is as big as we can go for R, because all we can do at this point is make T bigger. We can make T 80, but that's just going to make R and S smaller. So you can get this by just plugging in a bunch of numbers, and you'll get it eventually. But the quick and direct way is to realize that you can begin from when they're all equal, increase T just a little bit so that it's bigger than the other two, see what R and S angles are, and you've got the answer. So this one is D. To learn more about Reason Prep's SAT, SAT subject test, and ACT video courses, go to reasonprep.com/enroll, and you can find the link in the description below the video.